Guys, out in Revolution Land, I guess I should start with my traditional multicultural greeting, which encompasses hello, bonjour, ciao ragazzi, shalom, salam alaikum, habibis, and I'm going to add a new one, aloha, since I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. And I'm wearing one of my favorite Hawaiian shirts. It's from a Japanese company called Maria, but it's featuring a collaboration with Rage Against the Machine, which is a band that I love. And I saw this great video of you that was a Phillips video asking you questions. And you also mentioned you have an affection for Rage Against the Machine. Is that true?
Very much.
You know, like to me, I think they're incredible innovators. They basically created an entire new musical genre. You know, they created something that took like hardcore and punk, but mixed it with hip hop and created kind of a unique art form. And on the subject of creativity, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Les Collectionneurs, which is the vintage watch program that you guys run. So you will source the best vintage watches that you can find, then you will refurbish and restore at the manufacturer. And I think in the case of several of these watches, it's absolutely necessary and really preferable to purchase this watch from you guys. So I'll give you two examples, right? The first is the minute repeater.
Yep.
Right? So you have a beautiful minute repeater. Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah. This is just an amazing piece. You know, if I think about all the Vacheron Constantin watches I've seen in my career, that one has always been my favorite ever. So I think this is a breathtaking design.
Yes.
And you know, it was designed in the 40s, and we did around 40 of these fabulous minute repeaters between the 40s and the 60s.
Wow.
And it's a 36 millimeter diameter timepiece, and the movement inside is between 3.15 and 3.21 millimeter thick,
wow,
depending on how the watchmaker was, dealing with the blanks. And I love this. I love this idea of creating something unbelievably thin, way before any other brand did it. And I think once you put this watch on your wrist, you just absolutely can't say that watch was designed some 70 years ago. So this is what I so love in this timepiece.
You know, Christian, I think that this watch is also, so this is a reference 4261, guys, and this is a watch that dates to 1951, right? Yep. 36 mm in size, as Christian has mentioned, ultra thin. I want to talk about a couple of things. The first thing I want to talk about is, you know, having reviewed all of the watches that we're about to discuss, there is an incredible design creativity that's happening at Vacheron, especially in the 50s and 60s, which, yep, of course, we feel has been carried over to the modern watches as well. But just in terms of lugs, right? Just in terms of, actually, I would say dials, lugs, and cases, what you see and what we're about to see is some of the most incredible creativity, married, of course, with great technical innovation. So you see here that we've got the teardrop lugs on this beautiful watch. But of course, we will see later the crab lugs. We will see straight wide lugs from the first Chronometre Royale wristwatch. And of course, it was during this period in 1955 that the corne de vache, the cow horn lugs, were created as well. Christian, why do you think there was so much creativity going on at Vacheron at this time?
Well, I think that we have to come back to the early 50s or maybe to the end of the 40s. Well, the world was just escaping from terrible years, the Second World War. Yeah. And I think that people were, thinking that the future could be only better and brighter. And you remember, Wei, I'm sure that you have seen these futuristic images from the 50s. Yeah. In which we were supposed to live on the moon. We were supposed to live in big cities under crystal dome, driving futuristic cars, looking like jets. And I think that this gave to the designers an incredible creativity in shapes, in design, and totally uninhibited way. And I think this is why Vacheron Constantin during this decade or this couple of decades have made such impressive designs.
Incredible. Guys, sorry, somebody, if you don't mind pulling that picture back up, I just want to go through some key points for this watch. So it's a three-part case. It's got a thin and double-step bezel. The center part of the case has the soldering of these incredibly beautiful teardrop lugs. And then the back case is actually a bassinet, right? Which means,
Yep.
I think, water basin in French, which means it kind of protrudes out to hold the movement, but allows you to create kind of a much thinner watch, at least from the way it looks to the eye. It's also got a very beautiful dial, and I think we're just beginning to get into sort of the creativity related to dials for Vacheron as well. But I love these trapezoidal markers, right? The combination of Roman numerals at 12, 3, 6, and 9, but these trapezoidal markers, which we'll see, like such beautifully shaped markers in all the watches, hexagonal, trapezoidal, rectangular. I mean, it's really cool. And then the last thing I would say is that it's based on a Victorian Piguet Eboche, but of course, with the expertise of Vacheron Constantin transforming it into a beautiful movement. And I've heard this watch because there's a video of it, and the tone is beautifully regulated and a great tone as well. But, you know, Christian, I think the thing that I wanted to discuss is, like, so for me, if I'm going to buy a vintage Vacheron, like a minute repeater, I would only buy it if it was something that had been restored and curated by the maison, because the potential cost of restoring a minute repeater would be incredible. And I know for you guys, you know, when you're even factoring the price of these watches in, you're not even charging the full price of all the work, because in the end, profit is not the primary objective. The primary objective is to create this legacy, this living legacy of your watches. Is that correct?
It's very true. So yes, I think for us, the Les Collectionneurs is a marvelous, I would say, opportunity for us to talk about our heritage, about our creativity, about the legacy of Vacheron Constantin. And we are giving the possibility to few watch lovers or collectors to be able to acquire a piece of history from Vacheron Constantin. And as you are mentioning, we are curating these watches with the extreme, I would say, seriousness. And all the watches that we are presenting are just absolutely top.
Amazing. So now I want to continue with exactly what Christian was talking about. So I want to give you guys a bit of backstory on this. So the more I looked at this watch, the more I researched it, the more I fell in love with it. And I kid you not, and Sumit will confirm this, this morning I actually said, please reach out to Vacheron and find out how much this watch is, because I think I want to buy it. Right. And he replied, I think it's been sold. So I think it has been sold, but it is the incredible reference 4659, circa 1952, the crab lug watch. And I just love this watch because it's just so completely original, you know?
Yeah.
I think that, again, what I love about it, and this is kind of what you were saying as well, is it's representative of a new era. It's post Second World War. There's an exuberance in the air. Everyone is kind of like renewing this idea of romance and modernism. And this is a type of watch, because it's so original in shape, that I would see someone like Gianni Agnelli or maybe Pignatari, you know, wearing to the Stork Club in New York, or, you know, listening to Chet Baker, or going to Venice to the Gritty Palace dressed in Caraceni, drinking a Negroni, you know, like, but tell me about this watch, you know.
Yes. So I think for me, while the crab is a fabulous Vacheron Constantin, what I love in the design of the crab is this tension which is brought by Vacheron Constantin, in the sense that on one side you have a very strict, a very classic, a very readable dial, but suddenly you have the twist of Vacheron Constantin, and this twist is in the lugs, like, as you were mentioning at the beginning of the conversation. And I think this creates this very unique identity, which is the one of Vacheron Constantin. And of course, the crab is a super nice example of this classic with a twist spirit of Vacheron Constantin.
It's absolutely stunning. And, you know, okay, so for those of you guys who are like, hey, I really want a crab watch, crab claw watch, but maybe I could do it with a complication or something. I have actually seen in the Cabinotier program, I believe you at one point did an armillary tourbillon in a case that had this crab lug design as well. So, you know, if people are interested, you can go to Cabinotier and you know, make some requests to the wonderful people there and see what you can create, right?
No, I mean, it's very. I'm very impressed by your knowledge about Vacheron Constantin and Les Cabinotiers. So you are talking about, in fact, 4 prototypes that were made by the three famous watchmakers in charge of the reference 57260. So when they started to work on the story is that when they started to work on the reference 57260, they had to make a proof of concept. And they created this amazing movement. And well, Actually, we had a talk between them and our chief designer and myself about how could we create habillage, case and dalle around this fabulous movement. And we thought to use in fact, not the crab, but the Batman lugs. So it's a different kind of lug, even if it's close from this one. So we made 4 prototypes of the caliber 1990 using these Batman lugs. And of course, these watches were never shown never for sale, and they're just prototypes, and they are staying somewhere in the manufacturer.
Amazing. What an incredible piece of history. So let's continue talking about design. And I have to say, I think one of my all-time favorite watches, and definitely one of my favorite Vacheron Constantin non-chronograph watches, because of course my favorite chronograph is of course the Chronometre, is what the Italians call the chocolatone, right?
Yeah.
Which is, and I know you've got a very beautiful one, a reference 6440Q, circa 1967, 36 mm. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about this case design, right? Because it is like informed what the French call a carré galbé, which just means a curved square. And it was introduced in the 50s. And the nickname chocolatone was bestowed upon it by the Italians, who compared it to the popular chocolate squares that had a similar shape, right? I believe the first references of these watches were 4821 and 4822, 4822 having center seconds, both of which were manual winding, and then they were replaced by a self-winding model, 4737, and then eventually by the 6440 and the 6440Q, which is what we have here, which is a desirable watch because it's got center seconds and a date, right? But please tell me about this particular watch, because I have to say I love the dial, and I love this sort of irregular placement of these rectangular markers. It's absolutely stunning.
I was going to talk about the dial, because you have described better than I the chocolatone. But I think what is stunning, in addition to the great design and to the oversize of the chocolatone, is that dial, and that dial is just, I mean, out of the world. It's a super dial, and we were extremely lucky to be able to find this timepiece and to incorporate it in Les Collectionneurs, because this is a very interesting and very I think rare example of a chocolatone with such a dial. And I think that sometimes we say that emptiness is full of something, and in that case I think it's particularly true. And I think that this dial confers a great balance to the design of the chocolatone. So it's just a phenomenal timepiece.
It's amazing, and again, like I always try to imagine like who would be wearing a watch like this. And I kind of imagine like, Jude Law's character, Dickie Greenleaf from The Talented Mr. Ripley, like I think that's, listening to jazz. I mean, it's just such an elegant watch.
And just on the chocolatone, so I think you spoke about the carré galbé size. I think also for me, I've always been fascinated by the chocolatone, because for me, it incorporates three shapes in one, which is the rectangular case,
yes,
square dial opening, and I would say the fact that it's totally curved in all the positions, so a kind of semi-hemispheric kind of shape. So I think it's very unique, and I always think about, when I see this watch, I always think about the Salvador Dali painting Les Montres Molles. You see what I mean?
Yes.
I love that. It's a totally fascinating design.
You're right. It has like a surrealist sort of like effect to it as well. And then, okay, since we're on the subject of chocolatone, let's not forget. So one of my grails, I have a lot of grails, but one of the grails that I would love to own one day is, of course, the triple calendar chocolatone, 4764.
This one is a rare beast. Yeah.
It's such a rare beast, and it's so beautiful. And I know you made an homage watch to that in recent years as well, so maybe that's the way to go as well. But in the historic collection, maybe I'll have to look at that instead. But okay, so let's go from here to one of the names that is most associated with Vacheron Constantin, and that is the Chronometre Royale. Now, I want to talk about 3 different Chronometre Royales, all 3 of which, you have on offer with Les Collectionneurs. And I have to say, really big respect to you guys for curating just an epic collection of basically grail watches, right? So let's start with the pocket watch. So the Chronometre Royale was created in 1907, right? And in 1907, the whole idea, and Christian, please tell me if I'm right, was to create a pocket watch that could be sold to normal clients, but had all of the characteristics of like a chronometer, meaning like an observatory trial watch. And if I'm not mistaken, these watches were of such extraordinary level of precision and reliability that they became a huge hit, especially in countries like South America. And there's quite a funny story, because there was a retailer in Rio called Campos, and because like not everyone could afford one of these watches, they were quite a prize in the context of the era. They actually organized a lottery system in which subscribers could stand a chance to win one of these magnificent timepieces.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, such was the popularity of the Chronometre Royale that in 4 years in South America, they sold 3,000 of these watches, right? Which I think is incredible. So here an offer is one of those iconic watches, a Chronometre Royale pocket watch in its full glory, 18 karat yellow gold case, Gonfa enamel dial. But then again, and I also feel, because the purpose of this watch is to be super chronometric, I would only buy this watch if it had been kind of refurbished or restored by the maison, because how else are you going to have that assurance it's actually running the way it should?
Yep. I know it's a superb example. Yeah.
And okay, so then let's talk about the two Chronometre Royale pocket watches, right? I'm sorry, wristwatches. And so the first Chronometre Royale is, of course, the pocket watch. And then the second Chronometre Royale is the reference 4907, right? Which was actually introduced in 1953. And then I believe discontinued in 1962. So it was only made for 9 years, right?
Yes.
So it's quite a rare watch. Now, these wristwatches were very interesting because they were like, the whole premise was to create a wristwatch that civilians could buy, but basically had the same characteristics of observatory trial, watches, right? I believe there's an ad from 1957 that says, created for demanding clientele by the same experts of Vacheron Constantin, who produced the victorious chronometers at observatory trials. I mean, this is a super badass watch from a performance perspective. But then let's look at the design, because the design is insane. So Christian, tell us a bit about this watch.
Yes, I mean, like you were mentioning, the design is, I think, insane is a good description. So, well, again, such it is the case with the crab, for example. We see this duality in the design of Vacheron Constantin, meaning that the dial and the hands are very strict, very readable, very classic, and we have a round case, and suddenly we have these straight, enormous lugs.
Yeah.
I remember I had a discussion with Italian clients when I was much younger than these days. And I was asking them, so don't you think that these lugs are too big? And they were looking at me with desperation. So I understood that that it was something very special. So I think that the design of, I would say, the kind of brutality in the design of this model is something which is just amazing. And this model has always been one of the favorites of Vacheron Constantin for watch collectors. And it's a dream to wear. It's a fabulous timepiece again.
Imagine that on your wrist. It's such a crazy presence.
It
then, right? And then let's talk a little bit about the movements that we have inside of these watches as well. So I believe you had the 1007BS with center seconds, with small seconds, sub-seconds, and then you have the 1008BS with the center seconds, which this watch is. Now, I guess if people are wondering what BS stands for, it refers to balance stop, or
balance stop balance. Yes, definitely.
Hacking function. And then I think I'm not sure if there's a picture of the movement, but if you look at this movement, it's a breathtaking movement. You have this incredible, huge balance wheel with a swan neck regulator. You have one bridge that's for the direct seconds gear train. And then you have this lever for stopping the balance wheel for the hacking function as well. So it's the ultimate high performance machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's go from there to the Chronometre Royale reference 6111, circa 1956, also 35 mm, but very different in design. I mean, here's a watch that has also incredible lugs, but now we're talking about Maltese cross-shaped lugs.
Yes, so we have introduced these Maltese cross-shaped lugs a little before the 200th anniversary of Vacheron Constantin, so namely in 1955. And yes, that is a very emblematic design. we have been reworking this design when we launched the historic 1955 ultra thin. We took the same design for the lugs, and I think again I'm going to repeat it again, but I love very much in this design the the very serious kind of dial that you have, and again the twist which you can find in the lugs. And I think it's a much more elegant, if not almost kind of feminine design in comparison with the brutality of the previous one. And I think it's showcasing also the direction in which Vacheron Constantin was starting to work, which is all about elegance and sophistication.
Totally agree. I mean, and I love this sort of contrast, as you were saying, between a dial that's relatively classic in configuration, and then you have this almost kind of crazy creativity related to the lugs. And if you look at it, it's basically if like you were to take a Maltese cross and divide it into 4 pieces,
Yes.
and then use those as the attachments. It's crazy. Like, I love that, you know? Okay, well, so guys, Les Collectionneurs will be here in Singapore. So you'll be able to come and view the watches pretty soon, actually. I think we'll give you a precise date on that in a bit. But the last watch I wanted to talk to you about is a watch called the reference 3681, which is from 1948, which is a 30 mm in diameter watch. Now, I chose this watch because I find it interesting, but also kind of quirky. If I'm not mistaken, this is a reference that's also called the Altesse. It's a small watch with a glossy black Duco dial, but the other examples I've seen of this watch have these very stylized kind of disc-shaped hands, and here you've got sword hands. So can you tell me a bit about this watch? Did someone order it specifically this way?
So it's it's one of the we could say one of the mysteries of Vacheron Constantin, in the sense that a few information we have on this watch, and what I think is that it reminds me about science fiction from the 40s with the UFO. And I love this is really a designer's watch. We see that everything has been thought around the round shape, and we have concentric quadrants, and we have this very unique dial made of dots. And on top of that, what I really love in this timepiece is that the black background is certainly a Duco, what we call a Duco dial. So maybe you've heard about the Duco dials way. In fact, Vacheron Constantin has been using a special painting from Dupont de Nemours, the Duco painting, which was used to paint cars, American cars like Cadillac. And so it's a very glossy black. And Vacheron Constantin used that Duco painting during the 50s for some very, very beautiful glossy black dials. So I think it gives to the Altesse a very special character, even if the watch is already a very interesting design and not for everybody, I suppose. But it's also another great example of the diversity of Vacheron Constantin's creativity. So we have been doing a lot of different shapes, different designs, different dials. I think there is a lot of creativity and a little bit of fantasy that I love to call twist, and which is very much at the heart of Vacheron Constantin.
Amazing. So, Christian, I want to thank you so much for joining us and talking to us about Les Collectionneurs. We're delighted, and I have, after this kind of journey through your watches from the late 40s to the 50s to the 60s, a real appreciation for how innovative the design of Vacheron Constantin was back then, you know?
With pleasure, Wade. Always a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you so much. And, and again, I will search for a Rage Against the Machine shirt for you as well. Peace, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.